I grew up overseas representing the United States in the Foreign Service as a U.S. diplomat dependent. My parents tried to instill in me the sense of my blackness, my African heritage, my African culture. I lived in several countries in Africa, so I had a fairly good education about Africa history and Africa pre-European history, which we will call prehistoric times for purposes of you understanding. So before 500 years ago, I have information about Africa, or education about Africa. One day I came to the United States, and I was playing with my cousins, and a guy fell down, and I offered my hand to him, and I said, "Here, brother, let me help you up." And he said, to my utter surprise, "I ain't your brother. Don't call me brother." Right? So here is the purpose of this film. I was pretty hurt and insulted that he would say that. I don't think he understood where we come from and really how close black people are to each other. It's kind of creepy when you get down to it. So the title of this is Don't Call Me Brother. Dwayne Johnson versus Vin Diesel. Race shifter versus race denier. One is celebrated in the black community, even to the point of going to movies clearly not intended for black audiences, like Pain and Gain. One denies any ties to the black community. One is identified as everything from Asian to white to black, while the other is quoted as calling himself Italian. This Dwayne Johnson versus Vin Diesel is what I'm talking about. Dwayne Johnson was a wrestler with hopes of making it big in the movies. Unlike his pure white counterparts, who shifted from wrestling to the silver screen as B actors in B movies, Dwayne Johnson set himself up to be an A-list actor. He also set himself up as to not be pigeonholed into anyone's racial profile. He is black and Samoan, and Canadian for that matter. Every racial sector claims him as their own. He is black to blacks, he's white to whites, and he's Asians or Asian or Polynesian to Asian and Polynesians. Vin Diesel makes sure everyone understands he is not black, no parts of black, nor even wants to be identified as or as even being part black. While everyone who is part of the majority of Americans would describe such a person as black, he denies it. Audiences everywhere act accordingly. He doesn't identify himself as black, and black audiences make sure that they do not and go and see his movie as often as possible, unless they're just into those types of movies. Versus, like I said, Dwayne Johnson, black audiences will go see a movie that they don't regularly watch because Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, the black man, is in it. He is the Don't Call Me Brother crowd. There are black people who have denied black people so much that even if they fell down and you offered your hand to them and called them brother, they would say, "Don't call me brother." These are Vin Diesel, Morgan Freeman, Wesley Snipes. I am stunned by Morgan Freeman talking about how black people need no identity, heritage, and cultural education about Africa. I'm going to show you an interview about Dwayne Johnson, and I want you to see how fluent he is in his Samoan culture and how his African culture side of his interview is completely missing. Blank. Zero.
The story of my tattoo is a very elaborate story that are all the things that are important to me and that I love and that I'm passionate about and that move me from the heart. We first started my tattoo artist. We talked for hours before the work was even started, and we said a prayer, and then we went to work. 60 hours of work, 3 sessions, 20 hours apiece. And as we're telling the story, it's the story about my life, and it's a story about my journey, but bigger than me and my life and my journey are my ancestors and my culture on my dad's side, on my mom's side, my black culture, my Samoan culture as well, all the things that are important to me from my family and protecting my family, my ancestors, protecting all of us, the spirit of my ancestors. It represents, in my tattoo, is great struggle and overcoming that great struggle. Being appreciative of my success as we come up here to the sunshine, the sunlight that's on my neck, as well as the spirit of, it's called pu'umana, which is the spirit of a flower, which essentially means in this story the spirit of a woman who, and I've been blessed by having so many strong women in my life, and again, with as detailed and as elaborate as this entire tattoo is, that I'm very, very proud of, it all comes down to three things, which is my family and protecting my family and having a very aggressive warrior spirit that you can't hold down, and that I will continue to fight and overcome. And that particular piece is over my heart.
Now, Morgan Freeman talk to us about your African culture. And in case you missed it, the USA has no cultural beliefs of its own, unless you think get married, buy a house on a hill with a white picket fence has some sort of cultural meaning. That is not culture. That is anywhere. I mean, anywhere you could say that in Africa. I mean, that's not culture. There are white people who try and get in between black people and try and tell black people they don't need to identify with Africa. Meanwhile, these self-same white people go home and they eat calzones or bratwurst or bangers and mash or straighten their 15th century crusader painting on the wall with their ancestor directly in it. Sorry to tell you, but we don't have such a thing on our wall. Why? Because you made sure that African Americans do not know anything about Africa. Now, you personally might not do that, but the law and the powers that be make sure that. So Morgan Freeman, he needs to go to hell. And here's the thing about Morgan Freeman that I don't understand. Morgan Freeman, and I was thinking about this, and this floored me about some black people. Morgan Freeman is old enough to have lived through the time when black people were strung up in trees, when black people were burned at the stake, when black men were mutilated in their genitalia, where black children were killed in schools, where black people were burned in houses. Morgan Freeman is old enough to have seen all of it. Is he doing it just to get another movie role? Really? If so, you're a sellout and you're the worst guy. And I just hope when you're burning in hell, maybe then you'll be like, oh, you know what? I made a mistake. Maybe then. How can you be, how old is he? 70? And he lived through the 50s and 60s? It's impossible that you really actually believe what you say when you say black people don't need any cultural education about African American culture or history or the cultural heritage of their African tribes. Meanwhile, the Europeans have days set aside for their cultural heritage. You have an Italian day, you have an Irish day, you have a Scottish day, you have an English day, you have a French day, you even have Canadian days, you have Mexican. Everybody has a day. What do black people get? Nothing. Martin Luther King Day is not a day for black people. I'm sorry to tell you. That's something that happened in America, and we never got the story because when Martin Luther King had an epiphany and said, oh, I've been doing wrong. This is wrong. We should have been doing economic freedom this entire time. As soon as he said that, kablooey. Thank you, Hoover and friends, and Kennedy and friends. Thank you. Thank you for that. And that's the truth. So, my brother, all of you black people listening to me, you are my brother. Don't you ever form your lips with the people who died so that you could sit at your computer today, so that you could go to the job that you go to, so that you could go to the voting booth and throw your vote away on Obama. Don't you ever form your lips to say that you are not my brother. You'll get a serious beatdown and a very long lecture. You are my brother. When we can fix that, white people listen to me. When we can fix that, when black people can fix that little portion, then we'll get to the cloth, the blanket theory of everybody being a part of everybody. That's the next step. This step needs to happen first. Okay, white people? The black step has to happen first, then we'll get to the blanket theory. Don't come in between us until this connection is made. All right? Thank you for watching the Shikama Live Show. I know you're all gonna start hating on me on the comments, or some of you are gonna praise me, and some of you are gonna get it. To Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, I thank you for everything that you've done. I thank you for identifying yourself as Black and Samoan. I have a group of friends who I consider to be part of my family who are Samoan. So I'm laughing because every time I go hang out with them, you know, they all hug me, and then I get to the last guy, and he is just giant, and I am swallowed up by him. So yeah, I identify with Samoans too. So yeah, I think that I'm thinking about maybe moving and living to Hawaii. I have had nothing but the best feeling and aura come from Samoans and Hawaiians. It's that whole, you know, hang loose type of aura that they give off. And Vin Diesel, you can go screw yourself, along with Morgan Freeman, Wesley Snipes, and all the rest of those people. Thank you.